Three, two, one, go.
Here we are.
Well, that was fast.
We're
You
back.
always do that. You just kind of like hit it and just right in the middle of
We
any conversation.
are. What are you going to talk about? You can find us on YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, BitChute maybe.
Some of the episodes, at least.
Okay. Some of the episodes. Maybe this one if Kim says some wild stuff. We're here today with Kim Acer. I always say Acer. It's wrong. She's my cousin. I should know her last name. Tell us about yourself, Kim.
That's good. Kim Acer. I live in North Carolina, up here in Ohio for the holidays. So, lot of things, a lot of interest. Background in education, educational advocacy, background in communications, and history. I spent almost the last, 8 years working in museums, and currently volunteering with the Libertarian Party of North Carolina. I'm doing some affiliate development work, so work with expanding counties and kind of helping counties start their own affiliates.
Well,
So-
holy cow.
Damn.
Yeah.
Haven't you done a lot?
Yeah, a little bit. A
World
lot of
traveler.
interest.
World traveler.
Every 2, 3, 4 years, I get a little antsy.
You gotta
You
do
just gotta
something
Time
switch
for
it up.
something new.
Switch it up.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
We were
wanna-
just down there because Hank lives by them now.
I made the move,
Yes.
guys. I'm in North Carolina now.
We
by
have a
the
new
ocean.
neighbor in town.
Loser. Yeah, well, we'll see who's laughing when it comes to like May and it's so cold here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm in the
it's
ocean.
true.
That's unfortunate.
I think it's supposed to be 70 degrees on Saturday, so
We might need to go home on Friday.
It might
yeah.
hit 50
Yeah.
here.
That'll be nice though.
Yeah.
That's like 70
Kinda.
if you're used to 20.
For Ohio, that's pretty much 70.
Better than the
That's
10 last week.
Yeah, you can take off the sweatshirts finally.
Yeah. Breathe again.
See, it started getting to 50 down there and people were putting on the winter coats.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You can always tell who the locals are, about March or something. You have really, really white people laying on the beach. Like, they're not from here. Definitely
Next
not
to the
from
person
here.
in a coat.
Yeah.
Someone swimming in the ocean.
Yeah.
That's how all in
Canadian license plates out in the front.
We came down in I think March and we were swimming in the ocean and there was people with coats on the beach.
That was me.
In March.
What?
Nope. Nope.
Fair enough.
Yep,
that's-
in March.
A little chilly.
It was fine there. I mean, we were in the ocean, so it couldn't have been too bad.
Freezing. It was freezing cold. It's crazy.
It was fun. All right, Kim. So you do a lot of things. Let's talk about the Libertarian Party a little bit. What does it
Right.
mean to you to be a libertarian, and what do you hope the party does? Or I guess explain the party a little bit because I think a lot of people just don't know about it.
Yeah, that's actually something we find a lot. I think especially among older generations is, what does the libertarian even mean? People think liberal or, associate it with the left often because of the word libertarian. But basically, we're looking for the highest level of freedom possible for as many people as possible. So I would say, the Libertarian Party, it's the fastest growing party in the United States, fastest growing third party, of course. So we're primarily, I would say, definitely a lot of grassroots efforts. The big guys tend to keep you out. So we find the rules change a lot for the third parties. And so
And you mean big guys like media and things like that?
Sure.
Republicans?
Democrats, DNC, RNC. These are private organizations. So because they're so big, they make the rules. And it is really difficult for third parties to break through some of the status quo right now. So primarily we focus on grassroots efforts, going out to restaurants and college campuses, different places where we can talk to people about all of the things that are going on. And, we think freedom works for everybody. So it's kind of something that often appeals to both the left and the right. And, almost every libertarian was once a Democrat or a Republican themselves. So, eventually, we think that when the parties become too big and when power becomes too big, it often is corrupted, as we know throughout history. And so the Libertarian Party was actually founded in 1971. So we are relatively new, but most of our ideals match, I would say, along with some of the founding ideals of the United States.
Classically liberal.
So classically liberal. Yes, that word has changed
so
a
much.
bit over the years.
The 60s hit, and then the
Yes.
liberalism completely took on a new meaning.
It did.
And is it Immanuel Kant came up with libertarianism, like the philosophy of being libertarian?
I'm not sure.
Well, there's some early guys. It's basically what the founding fathers pulled from to make the Constitution. And
Adam Smith was a big.
Yeah.
Adam Smith was a
Smith.
big. He was like kind of the
Absolutely.
father of economics. A lot of modern economics is based off of him, his teachings. Milton Friedman. I always listen to Milton Friedman, and Milton Friedman, like that was his
he's
Bible.
libertarian, right?
He was libertarian,
Yeah.
but he had some idea. He had some like. Towards his end or towards the end, he had some changes of mind, I guess. He kind of came a little more conservative.
Like more Republican. I mean, you don't get much more conservative than a libertarian, right?
Yeah, it was like what was one of the
You don't get much more liberal either if you're talking
guess,
classical liberal.
That's the struggle with the whole thing. Is
Yes.
I think the definition is
Yes.
so like people just hear libertarian and associate it with like whatever the enemy is almost. So if you're on the left, you think that's as far right as you go, and if you're on the right, you might think those are a bunch of lefties.
Sure. Yeah, that's the joke, right? My Republican friends think I'm a Democrat, and all my Democratic friends think I'm a Republican. So you really can really mess with people's minds sometimes. But the ultimate goal really is less government, and you have everything from no government libertarians all the way to just smaller government libertarians. So it is a broad spectrum. I mean, it's a wide variety of people that we meet and that we work with.
Jacob, would you consider yourself like a Republican, or what would you consider yourself?
I'm probably in between conservative and libertarian. I mean, I have a little bit of both.
What do you like from each, or what don't you like from each?
I don't like a big government. I want a very small government. I like when people can do what they want and when they want, have the freedom to decide what they want to do. But there's some things that just when I don't think that people can be 100% free because they might do some bad things. But
Like what?
I don't know. Just like for instance, like the pro-life rather than the pro-choice thing. I don't think. I think pro. I think I'm definitely pro-life, and I think that abortion is murder, and I don't agree with that. And I think a lot of libertarians are just like, well, you do what you want with it. And I agree with most of that. Like, you can do what you want, have a good time, but that part I don't agree with. So I believe
murder.
I believe
right?
in what I believe. I'm not like a conservative and libertarian. I'm definitely not left, but I'm like right in between there probably.
It's kind of like I kind of don't associate with any party anymore. It's just because
I believe in what I believe in,
Yeah.
and that's what it is. That's who I. That's
like if I would definitely lean towards the Libertarian Party. Like if I was gonna vote in an election, I'd probably vote Libertarian.
If you had the option to.
Yeah.
There was no option to in Ohio. You had the president with Joe Jorgensen, and then that was the only libertarian person running the whole state.
Really?
That was on the ballot at least.
live in the Libertarian Party. Yeah,
Yeah, it was all Republicans or Democrats.
There's a lot of people on the ballot though in Ohio.
Yeah, a lot of Republicans and Democrats.
A lot of
I didn't vote for any of
independents
them.
or Green Party.
There
Any
might have
other?
been one or two independents,
There was some independence ones.
but not many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was really surprised on how many Joe Jorgensen got. How many votes she got.
I think in Salina it was not that much. I think we were at like 270 votes or something like that out of
270 votes.
out of like 17,000.
She did get the second most votes of any Libertarian candidate.
Did she really?
So far, yes.
Gary Johnson.
Gary Johnson was
I voted for
first.
Gary too.
Yes, we see more and more all the time. Yeah, it's interesting that you brought up abortion too. That's often one of the things that we hear: abortion, open borders, roads. My roads.
Oh yeah,
You know?
that's like the
but
first
yeah,
argument.
it
It's
is,
always
it is.
roads. Oh, do
And
you know what roads?
I actually really that's I know pro-life libertarians, I know pro-choice libertarians, and it's kind of both. The official party platform is just that government shouldn't be involved in those decisions.
Yeah, they shouldn't be.
Essentially,
Exactly.
it's between
They
a
should not
doctor
be.
and a patient,
Yeah.
and that the government should be out of your
Yeah, I
hospital room.
I don't think the government should say what
So-
you can and can't do, but I do believe that it's murder.
If anything, I've like maybe at the local level they could do it. Like if you want to just do it by that small of an area, you could
For abortion?
like locally ban it. But I don't think it should be a nationwide or a statewide.
The issue
thing.
is it's not
I don't
really.
think anyone should say anything.
It's if you everyone agrees murder is wrong. So when you consider the baby a human, and if you consider the baby a human when it's a fetus, then it's murder and it's wrong. And then it's like, I think any government, whether it's a libertarian government or a Republican or whatever,
Yeah, they
don't
should
want
not have to
murder.
say.
Don't want murder. That's obviously wrong. It's
It's
tough. though.
complicated.
Yeah,
and I
it's
think, if you are someone who is absolutely against abortion, then what you would want to look at is numbers. Are the numbers going up or down, whether it's legal or illegal? And so far, from what we can tell, after Roe v. Wade, the numbers haven't changed as drastically as one would hasn't changed, period. But the expectation was that should it be legalized, there would be a lot more abortion, where in reality it became a much safer abortion. So definitely that's something to for people to consider also, is if your goal is to lessen the number of women who get abortions, then the idea would be of education, hopefully not legislation. So, and that's typical of a lot of libertarian stances, is what I would say.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Education is powerful.
I feel like the same thing would happen with the legalization of drugs too.
Yeah.
Like it's not like maybe there'll be a spike at the beginning, but it's not like everyone's just gonna go out and want to do drugs all the time or whatever.
Right.
Because people still have to live
Right.
lives. Like I think there was like a European country that did that. Like
Portugal.
Yeah, Portugal. And they did like a 20-year study or something like that. And
No, it's legal there.
yeah, but it's only been legal for like 20 years.
Maybe less.
Time.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I'm not
basically,
sure.
from what I've seen on blurbs on the internet, is in those countries in Portugal, where they made drugs legal, they took all the money they were using to fight the war on drugs and put it instead into rehabilitating and giving, like, if I'm a heroin user right now in the United States, I have nowhere to turn, but I might want to get clean, but it's really hard. There, they might have resources for you to get clean drugs so you're not ruining yourself, and then also a program to where you have a community and a group who's helping you get clean and is paid for by the government. And I think it's working there, from what I've seen, but I'm probably in support of that, so I might have a bias and might only read news stories with headlines I like. But I hope that it's working because it seems like a better world to me.
My thing is I'm big in individual responsibilities.
Definitely.
It is if you want to do drugs and you can get all of your responsibilities done and be a good human being and get all of your shit done, then go ahead and do drugs. But if you cannot do that, then you probably should not do drugs. It all comes down to individual.
Yeah, but should you be told that you shouldn't do drugs? I guess.
No. I don't think you
Right.
should be told what to do anything. But
Or threatened by jail or fine.
yeah, no.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, they estimate somewhere just under 75 to 80%, somewhere in there, of drug deaths are caused by either overdose or being cut with something, which ties directly into the illegal drug market. The argument for legalizing drugs, of course, is to make them safer and to bring it out into the open, where if you're at a party and someone is overdosing, a lot of people are afraid. You don't want to call the health, the authorities. You don't want to call 911 because here we are at a party with drugs, and now someone may lose their life because they're afraid to get the help that they need. So I guess we'll see. Oregon just legalized all drugs. So now Oregon is a place that would have the capability of having more treatment centers. That's something that they've put a lot of money into. So I I like the fact that in the United States we can kind of see how these things work at a state level and work out some kinks. That we sort of saw that with
I like that
marijuana legalization.
The states are getting a little bit more power in certain things, which I like.
Yeah. This is a big country, and it's often in our benefit to try things on a small scale.
Well,
before
they neutered us after the Civil War.
Prove how it works.
They neutered the states' rights after the Civil War. So it's kind of like I'm glad to see it returning because it's how that's the point of having states. Is we don't have provinces like the like Canada. Like all law is passed by I was in the Commonwealth or something, and it affects all the provinces as well. In the U.S., like a state can override a federal jurisdiction. Constitutionally, it should be, but the Civil War questioned that. So it's like now there's walking a fine line between
because the states had a right to secede from the union.
Exactly.
And Lincoln was like, nope, don't do that.
Taxes.
Yeah.
Usually all
Can't do that.
Taxes.
Yeah, which amazes me why the government doesn't like why they don't politicize legalizing drugs more because they could just tax them. It's like
they're getting enough taxes elsewhere.
Yeah, the prescription drugs.
They're apparently doing all right.
Yeah. They printed 35% of all currency ever printed was printed this year.
Ooh.
That's scary.
Not printed though, like put in circulation.
The M1 money supply increased by 30.
But that's like digital money too, not like actual paper dollars.
I'm pretty sure the M1 money supply is
only paper.
Is like not assets or anything.
I know, but I mean, like you can write someone a check, and that money never gets turned into paper.
Yeah, this graph just goes straight up.
No,
straight up.
Turn on the printing presses.
Yeah,
includes funds that are readily accessible for spending. So it's currency outside the U.S. Treasury, banks, and then traveler checks, demand deposits. So this is not, I think M2 is like treasuries notes or whatever too. Like they're different.
But again, that's American dollars, but not like dollar bills. So it's not printed. It's just in circulation now.
Well, I mean, it's not printed yet.
No, you know what I'm saying though. It's like, I guess they made that money, yes, and now it's in circulation. But they didn't actually like use a printing press and like print dollars. It's all on like computers.
Well, they printed more money.
Yeah, they printed more, but I'm saying they didn't print that much. They can't. There's too much.
No, that's it.
Physically?
Yeah, they physically didn't turn them into dollar bills.
Saying. And circulation is different. Yeah.
Well, it's going to catch up to bite them in the ass that if they're not printing that much money. Because what happens if everyone pulls that much
cards.
money?
They don't.
I know, but that's the thing.
Not.
If there's a bank run at all,
they're
screwed.
If there is, they are.
Yeah, then
they're betting on it. So there's not going to be.
Yeah.
So that's why they want to give out the stimuluses and everything.
Weaving us out of cash is the other angle.
That's the other angle.
Is, and incentivizing us not to use cash.
It's more convenient not to, right?
The FedNet or whatever. No.
I mean, I don't have kids, but imagine, like looking at your kids and talking about this. Oh, by the way, I'm so sorry about the millions and millions of dollars to fix that boat in Sri Lanka. Or, I know you didn't agree to this, but
we didn't either.
Well, bail out Social Security, which was supposed to be this special separate account, and all of a sudden it's part of our budget.
They dip their fingers in it. And now 1 billion baby boomers worldwide are retiring this decade. Yeah. And it's like those people, a lot of them are Americans. And a lot of them are going to want their pensions.
Yes, they are.
And when they come to pay
of course, they've been paying into it as though there's the
piper
special
needs
account.
paid.
Yeah.
Well, they'll get it back, but it'll just be
us.
less.
It'll be us.
No, we'll get ours too, but it'll be less because of inflation. So if I'm getting $600 a month, it'll be worth half of what it is today.
Well, that's the main reason why they want to go digital is because there's no quicker way to add money to people's accounts, just adding a zero.
Sure.
You don't have to physically send them a check.
Yeah, because that's a real pain in the ass.
Because
we are not in a system that helps the savers. It is.
No, not with
that's
inflation.
Very unfortunate.
Well, it's like
the
responsible people get screwed.
Yeah, sure. Our grandparents, saved and
the
saved
savers are
cash.
screwed.
And
the savers are screwed.
I expected this $100 to get you really far, but $100 does not mean what $100 once meant.
It'll be real interesting to see how much the real inflation actually is when we in the coming months and years to see how much $1 gets you. like 2 years from now as compared to today? I bet it's half as much.
I don't know. See, it's weird just because of how like the petrol dollar and everything.
I know, but that's
And
falling
it's
apart,
all
too.
connected too. It's like if we fail, everyone else fails. So it's kind of like the U.S. has at least
Well.
spread the damage out worldwide. So it's like if it does fail anywhere, which it's going to, something's got to break when you do
Something
this.
has to break
Like,
eventually.
banks are failing.
This doesn't.
Nationally or internationally.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, the dollar is still relatively strong, but only because of what's going on with COVID and the pandemic. The other countries just happen to be weaker than ours. So,
Exactly.
You know,
Well, it's like
it could be worse, but it so happens that others.
Well, it's like Japan
are losing
already
their
had
value faster.
like 100 plus 175 debt to GDP ratio.
They have a
before
negative
this.
interest rate.
Yeah, exactly. And the U.S. can't really do that just because of the dollar. It's like
Well, they thought about it.
you can't.
So, do you know really how a negative interest rate works? Because I kind of read into it, and I was kind of confused by the
It
whole
costs
thing.
money. So if you had a certain amount of money, this is how I believe Germany does it. It's like if you have a certain amount of money in the bank, you're taxed out. Those are taxed pretty much to hold them at the bank.
So you lose money for
You
it.
lose
I thought it
money.
was like they
Right.
pay you to take loans was the idea.
Negative.
You lose
Yeah.
money.
Negative interest
Negative.
rate. That's the way I understand it as well.
'Cause if the interest rate
they
here
would
is
have to
3%,
incentivize
Yeah.
you to take out a loan. Where
But that doesn't make any sense.
we're
Incentivize
already,
you to go
I
into
can't even
debt.
believe we're still this low. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, the Fed is.
Well, it's just stimulate the
The
economy,
Fed
right?
has the control of our currency.
No, Japan has one, but maybe Germany has one every once in a while. But Japan always has one. Or they have for a while. Right.
So it's to incentivize lenders.
Yeah, so they're getting paid to give away money.
To give away money.
The lenders
I mean,
are.
Ideally, yeah.
So if I'm a
I
consumer
would give
in
you
that
a
market,
loan to, and you would pay me
So
back
you're-
more.
You lose
than-
your savings. Your savings. You lose money. Your savings aren't worth as much if they're lending out more money.
You ought to believe that would cause inflation.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's the negative interest rate affects you because there's less money.
But there's more money
money
available.
There's more
Yeah.
money in supply, so it means your money's worth
Because
as much.
they're getting paid to give you loans. That's crazy.
to inject. Why do you think they call it a stimulus? Is because
Yeah.
they want
Yes.
you to spend it.
They want you to.
Stimulus
spend this
isn't
money.
saving your
Yes.
money.
The
Stimulus
money
is-
must
yeah.
constantly be circulating for this to work. So
I think the money supply was almost at 1, and that's like scary. Because if money stops moving, then this breaks.
yes, that's the concern. Is the
What do you mean?
don't
One is
hide it under
The
your
velocity.
mattresses. You know.
Yeah, don't hide it under your mattresses. Exactly.
buy some shit.
See, this is
Which
the M2
will
money supply.
which will probably be cheaper now than in 10 years from now. So
Maybe.
it is in your right again punishing the savers. So
so this is the
Not if you buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
oh, maybe there's some potential there with blockchain technology too.
Sure.
Yeah, but this is the money velocity, and 1 is scary. It's like we're at the money is not moving at all,
So
and they're printing more money, which is not. It's like
in 97, when I was born, it was at 2.2, and now it's around 1, closer to 1, maybe 1.1, according to this chart.
yeah, and you can see when they inject money. Every time they increase federal spending, money velocity drops. More
The-
government intervention drops.
Well, it's basically in line with recessions and stuff, because there's the dot-com bubble, maybe, little dip in the late 90s. I guess.
Well, this right here we had a war, Gulf War, also helped us like fund this a lot.
I don't know. We might be looking at something we don't totally understand,
We
Frank.
do
Yeah,
sell a lot of weapons.
Yeah, but that's
Other
the Gulf War was
countries,
right during
that
that
is-
time.
Builds line of tents, too.
But yeah, that's
a good
just
one.
interesting. I was sure money it's gonna be trouble, and people don't think about it yet.
Well, I think people don't think about what money is.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
what money, what is money? Is it the paper that we pass around to each other, or the digital dollars flying around on our computers, or is it the food we eat? Is it the thing, money is what do you get for what are you trying to do? We don't have to go out into the woods and build a house anymore. We don't have to eat the food we grow in our garden, go to the store, get anything. What do you want? Thai. I probably can get some of that in about 10 minutes, or sushi. Or,
Not in Salina.
Well,
You can get sushi
okay.
now.
Well, depending on your location, of
Yeah.
course. But, Yeah, it's what we've decided our value of work is worth is money.
Yeah, you trade your time
But
for it, literally.
you literally trade your time for it.
It's almost like it's not even money anymore. It's like currency only. After they removed the gold standard, now it's just paper.
73,
1971.
You and your gold standard, man.
Dude, they need a return. They're talking about it.
They'll never return.
Well,
to the gold standard.
who was it? The one of the Fed members or something. The Fed chairman.
A while ago.
She's a big gold proponent, gold standard proponent.
Like brand new Federal Reserve chairman. She was like maybe going back to the gold standard. Like maybe 6 months ago.
Judy Shelton.
Judy Shelton, yes, the nominee.
Yeah, the nominee.
Oh, did she not make it?
That seems unlikely based on the situation. So it's not.
Trump was going to appoint her, or
it isn't backed by anything. We have a dollar that is not backed.
It's backed by faith, Kim.
It's backed by faith.
From your boys.
You're right.
In Washington, D.C.
Yes. Well, they certainly can be trusted.
Well, it's backed by. We have the biggest guns. We have the biggest stick here. So
maybe.
Yeah,
everyone's got big sticks these days.
I don't know. I think the Gulf War was a big showing of our actual strength.
I've heard some weird stories about it where like they had all these old tanks and U.S. tanks came through the M1 Abrams and just like
destroyed everything. There was no U.S. casualties.
There's pretty much like the first day. I was listening to some podcast with one guy, and he pretty much was like the second line of the front line, and he said they're just rolling without stopping, and they're just dead bodies and blowing up tanks and everywhere, just scattered. And U.S. they just kept going. It just no stopping or anything. They just kept going.
We had GPS.
What was Desert Storm even about?
Oil.
I could have guessed that. But what was it about for the American people?
Was it a big deal?
Oil.
Was it a big deal? Like.
I don't remember that as much. So when I was in college, I mean, I had the no blood for oil under Bush number 2. And honestly, at that time, when I'd started college, I certainly would consider myself to have been a Republican. And I've always been very anti-war. That has remained pretty consistent, which really led me here because at that time, all of a sudden I remember going on spring break when Bush declared that we were at war. I mean, it was very scary. And, me and several of my friends were obviously speaking out against it, and it was kind of shocking. And here we are, how many years later, still involved in these countries. But at that time, of course, it wasn't about oil. The narrative was that it wasn't. And it seemed pretty clear that it was. So that was and I became a Democrat after that because I thought this was the party that was saying that they were anti-war. And I was in my 20s, and that's how I'll go with the anti-war party. And then after Obama got elected and dropped a lot of bombs, and then I thought, I guess they're only anti-war when Republicans are in office. So I don't think you could call either main party anti-war at this point.
They increased the military spending.
We're certainly not looking for peace and we meddle. We meddle, and we cause some of our own problems, unfortunately, through our weapons dealing and through
I think
our
we should be
toppling
isolationists. I'm a big isolationist. Except trade.
George Washington was
except for trade. We can trade, but no taxes on trade.
It'd be weird to see what that would look like now. Like if you could actually make a move towards isolationism, military-wise.
Well, especially as
just because we're so ingrained in a bunch of different areas,
country.
And like, what would the world look like if we did suddenly pull back? Like,
a lot of power,
who knows?
Changes.
Right?
I bet a lot of power.
Would that be a good thing in reality? Would that be a good thing?
Yeah.
And I mean, I think the military does so much around the world, truly good things.
Hopefully, yeah.
And I would love, and sometimes bad, but it's truly they do get involved in a lot of good things, or particularly good intentions. But well-intentioned doesn't necessarily equal a good result. So I like a defensive strategy where
you get human nature, and for some reason, war is in human nature. It's always happened. It always will happen, and it'll never stop happening. That's just how humans are, and human nature is just probably not very good.
I don't think regular humans are like that, though.
I don't know.
I think it comes. I think war comes from humans who have control to make other humans do it for them.
No.
I think we're
War
part of
comes
the,
from
think so.
governments.
That's what I
They
think.
aren't the ones fighting
But-
the war.
Exactly.
The people
No,
are.
they make the bigger wars. So there's always those smaller wars that's going on, like someone coming in your house.
That doesn't happen ever.
Well, I
it's
mean,
so rare.
I think
it's
we're-
so
But
rare.
it's still happening.
It does happen.
I'm just
that's not like an act of war, though. It might be an act
it
of
almost
violence.
is. It's
Not
almost-
one on
it's
one.
almost
That's not
a
even
war.
war. That's
We
not
don't
close to
actively
war.
go out looking for
Well, they
people who
think-
might come into our house. We defend
Yeah.
ourselves if they come. So
Yeah, I mean,
that's
but
I think I think it's
almost
mostly
act of
due
war.
to the
It's just violence.
it's mostly up like
Violence and war
power.
are separate.
It's all like once a group gets in power,
It's
'cause
groups.
It's groups that get
For it
in
to
power.
be a war, there has to be groups.
Exactly, but like there's only been it's always slowly. There's only been a few times like 3 times in history where we've had free societies. Like Greece was a very free society, and then we entered into the Dark Ages, the medieval ages, when Christianity reigned king. Like if you couldn't go against anything that the church said, and then the Age of Enlightenment hit, and now we're here.
And while individually, in many ways, I feel less free. The road is
Turning towards
leading
less?
in that direction
Yeah.
toward
No,
more.
Kim,
Actually,
you'll be safe though.
But it is actually going toward more. I mean, less people die in war now
Yeah.
than ever before. You can see
Worldwide.
a progression of less. We're more hands off, of course,
Less people on our
than
side.
we used to be.
No, all sides. There's
So-
less war today than there ever has been.
But I'm just saying, like that. The
It's
point
more
I was
strategic.
Yeah, the point I'm making though is the natural state of humans is conflict. Is like there's always some type of power struggle.
Yeah.
There's
to your
definitely
point.
conflicts between humans and especially groups of humans, whether it be company to company or city to city. I mean, we have a rivalry with St. Mary's. That doesn't mean we're going over there and killing them.
Well, I mean,
so
when we were
if you
tribal-
call that war, then yes, humans' natural state is war. But when it comes to actually dropping bombs or killing and attacking large groups of people, I believe that generally humans wouldn't do that if they didn't have an
No,
overpressor saying you got to do that.
What
Because
about
they're bad, they're evil, they're raping and killing,
go to tri-
whatever they
I
gotta
don't
say.
You can
think
go
so.
back to the
Maybe
tribal
not.
days. The tribes
Sure,
still
we've
do
come
it.
a long way though.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It's almost bred into it, like that. The natural instinct is conflict, is to protect, be and it's in all animals to be territorial.
Yeah, like
Yeah, but we do it
deer-
differently now.
Particularly men.
But
Exactly.
I
yeah.
point out.
That's sexist, Kim.
Sorry, a little bit. Had to throw that in there.
Yeah. No, that's probably true.
Well, it was like mainly the men and historically that were hoarding the value, like hoarding the power. Really, I'm not saying it was like, oh, men are terrible, whatever. I'm just saying,
Neither
like,
am I.
that's just how it worked.
No, they are all terrible.
we're all disgusting.
Pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Well,
But that's just how it was. It was life.
disgusting.
that's not for me to
beings.
tell you. I guess, if you'd like to admit it.
No, but it was all. That's just how it was. You can't fight it.
That's how it was. I really think that there's other outlets for war-like energies, like sports. I feel like that's like a expression of those same emotions.
See, I think that's you have almost a coddled way of thinking.
Yeah.
Then
I think that's reality for society.
But what happens if it breaks down? What happens when
It
you
might.
can't get food?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
people,
Well,
like that's when society
we
reverts to its
do
natural
live
state.
in a world of
So-
scarcity, and
Yeah.
so I
mean-
do agree that that's a potential. That's why now instead of going to war, we fight to make money. We go
That's
to work.
why we go to war. Is
That's
so
why we go to
don't
work.
lose everything.
Sure.
So right now, think of the worst thing you can do to a human being.
Right now,
Right now, just think of the worst thing that you can do to a human being.
me personally,
Yes,
sure.
you can do that.
Yeah.
You have the potential of doing that.
But I don't want to.
So I just heard a quote today. I think it's something along the line of, a good man is not dangerous. No, hold up.
I think
It was Jordan Peterson said it one time, but crap. No, I'm just
you could
drawing
just
blank.
look back at like why did what was the
blank. My bad,
experiment
guys.
that
My bad.
the one experiment where they showed like why it was explaining why the Nazis were going and like the people were being ordered to, and they were like, we were just told to do it, so we did it.
Yeah.
And they like
I think that's what happens now too. When
Yeah.
an 18-year-old kid
Following-
wants to better his life and joins the military, he gets into the system, and they are good at getting to the point to where you are going to follow orders. Because on a battlefield, you need to. You
Absolutely.
can't question shit.
That organization
Yeah,
has
it has
to be
to
there
happen.
to
not
be
necessarily
effective.
because our whole military system, what made it powerful was that the lower ranking people, if they were in the field, they could
Do the same thing the leader could do, right?
they could literally override whatever their.
But regardless, they're following
on the
orders.
spot.
But that's why our military is great, because we are adaptive, meaning that like if you're not in the field and you're,
I would argue that they're not adaptive; they're more adaptive. So it's like
Comparatively.
comparatively adaptive.
well, is the best. That's why most countries switch to the same.
It probably works better for war. But regardless, those guys are probably following orders relatively blindly because they think it's right, because they've been told to, and that's what they're trained to do. And I respect that they're doing it, because they're doing it for what they think are all the right reasons. They're protecting us here in America. They're doing it for us so that we can be free.
Similar-
And that's a magical thing. Like
Yeah.
you can't not respect that. That's great.
Well, it's similar to police forces.
Sure.
This is a very similar point, is that without that organization, they might not be successful when they're at those points of a dangerous situation. This is
They have
how
to act.
we have to act. We have to know how we might act in a dangerous
And mistakes
situation.
do happen in
But
both.
you can easily get drug along into that by positions of authority. So there was a very interesting study back in the 1960s about the power structure of that. So essentially, they set up to where you and I would be here, and you would be administering shocks.
Yeah, that's the
to
one I was
him.
talking about. That's the
Yes,
one I'm talking
this
about.
So I'm just a peer, and I'm telling you, you're going to press this button, and you're going to shock him. And eventually, he's crying, ow, ow. And of course, this isn't really happening. It's
A recording.
the point of the study, that it's a recording, that he's yelling, and I'm telling you to do it. At a certain point, you're going to look at me and say, I cannot do this anymore. I cannot continue shocking this person. Now, when they brought in someone in a position of authority, a police officer or a scientist who's doing this, or anyone who you might see as a position of authority, when they would then tell the subject, continue administering more, it was increasingly more likely that they would do it to a point where it might even cause death or harm
The people,
to the
like, the
person.
recordings
But
were-
we trust those in authority.
They were like
And we
begging
follow
them to
authoritarian
stop.
positions
all
in
follow
many
that
ways.
track,
Yeah.
Yeah, they were begging them to
Begging.
stop. Like, and the people were just like looking at them. I think there's recordings of it too.
And it's the
That's
same
real
person.
interesting.
And
Yeah.
when it's a peer,
But
they're going to back off.
There's
And
a
when
good
it's an
reason for us to be doing that. Like, if you think about evolution, like, that's like leaders in a company, or leaders in throughout life, or people you look up to. Like, you got to have some way to filter their information to know if it's like legit or not. And when someone with authority, like, that's really what we're using to filter a lot of truth or false or decisions we make, that kind of thing, is these authority figures in our lives, or leaders in our lives. And whether it be a policeman or these different guys.
It's groups now.
Yeah.
It's corporations now.
Well, it's
Universities.
but it's
Professors,
changing.
yeah.
It's changing. Like,
Right.
some certain groups, like police officers, for instance, are starting to get a worse rap. So that same study might not work as well for them specifically, because people that might not respect their authority.
That's just the authority
That's
changing,
interesting.
but the
Sure.
the behavior still exists.
But it makes sense that it does.
It's an interesting one.
Yeah,
You want to take a break?
sure.
Sounds good.
Cool. We're back.
That might have been the quickest break we've had, actually. Maybe it was long, but we just kept talking and just.
You guys missed the best stuff again.
Yeah, sorry guys.
If you want to hear that stuff,
Not sorry.
hit us up. You're welcome on the podcast. So that's how you do it.
It gets really real.
Crying, yelling,
Yeah, dude. All the emotions you can think of.
hatred, anger.
I hate Jacob for disagreeing with me. I'm just gonna come out and say,
All this war shit, I'm gonna. Oh boy.
So, Kim, what recently have you been doing with the Libertarian Party?
Most recently, trying to meet in person again. That's been the challenge this year. Of course, events are canceled. We would typically have a lot of community outreach at events and community festivals, and of course, none of that happened this year. So we've had to shift things a little bit. We did an online Zoom trivia night. We've tried to do a few things like that to kind of keep people engaged. So
but we've been meeting in person.
Yes, we happen to live in an area where meeting in person is a little more accepted, and Yeah, so some people that are doing this work, in the cities and stuff, have had a more difficult time. A lot of those places have closed or shut down or not let them come this year. So it's been a little quieter, less visitations to campuses and things because they haven't been really open. So, it's been a kind of a quieter year, but we're still doing what we can. Obviously, unfortunately, it was a presidential election year when we would have really been out doing a lot of stuff. So, it is really important to us to focus on development outside of presidential election years because we see so many people engaged at that time. But this is not the way this works. We want people engaged all of the time. And if nothing else, libertarian is the political party part is the most challenging because by nature, a lot of libertarians don't want anything to do with political government or political parties. So to get them to vote is difficult enough. We always, this is like herding cats is what we always say. We are a party who herds cats, who all want to be individuals, who all want to live their life in a way that they see fit. So it's already a challenge this year, presented a little additional challenge for us. So, but yeah, so
I love that way you put it. Herding cats.
Herding cats. Yes.
Jacob's mother knows all about that. Gotta herd you and us and all of his kids when you're running around.
Boy.
Also cats.
That was
good times. Kim, one thing that people always say to me whenever I tell them I'm a libertarian or I'm voting libertarian is a vote for libertarian is a vote for whatever the opposing party is. So if I'm talking to Republicans, they say that if I vote libertarian, it's a vote for Democrats. Mm-hmm. And Democrats always say it's a vote for Republicans. Mm-hmm. What do you say to those guys? I mean, it's true that I'm not voting for the party I'm maybe closer line lift that I would hope to win, but I don't even think that way. Like I don't, and I think that's stopping a lot of Republicans and Democrats from joining with the group because I think they just don't have a chance to win.
Yeah. That's certainly very powerful, right? You think, the Republican's going to win anyway. The Democrat's going to win anyway. Aren't you just throwing your vote away? Of course, I say no, you're not. A vote for Joe Jorgensen was a vote for Joe Jorgensen.
Imagine that.
Yeah. We often, I think in this lesser of two evils narrative that's been going on for quite some time. But this is still evil if you're going to refer to it as that. So, I heard people say that I'm going to vote for Joe Biden, but I hate Joe Biden, or I'm going to vote for Trump even though I think he's terrible. I go, well, at least the person that I'm voting for, I believe in them. They are a nice person. They are a good human. We share ideological similarities. I like to think of voting in favor of something rather than against something. So, but it's difficult to jump ship. I understand that, that mentality is that until the whole herd moves and it's this person has a chance, it's going to be difficult. That's always been a challenge, but a vote for someone is a vote for someone. That's that. Certainly, it's really important. I always think of it too. People talk about the protest vote. Have the protest vote. You're sending a message when you aren't voting for the status quo. And you also might be helping us gain ballot access. So a lot of people, I can't tell you how many people I talked to who were really in favor of Biden or Trump, but they said during the debates, wow, what if we had someone else up there? What if there was another voice or two more voices that we could have heard through those debates, and how much more productive those debates might have been for a real conversation? You have to have, a lot of people don't realize the process that goes even to just getting on the ballot. You have to have signatures, hand signatures, which this year also very difficult to just even be on the ballot. And we have to meet certain percentages in some cases to stay on the ballot. So if you don't like the main people that are voting, always pick a third party, even if it's not the Libertarian Party, because you might be helping another voice get heard that is naturally going to be shut out otherwise.
Mm-hmm. And it'll make your world better, hopefully. I think most people can.
So too.
I bet the public perception of the United States government, especially nationally, is just piss poor because of the two-party system. And to me, you can make a difference whether they win or not by showing those political people in power that the public that they're supposed to be representing is having opposing views. And hopefully that changes actual actions and actual votes.
I do a lot of traveling, particularly like road trips. And when you drive through this country, go to the different cities, go to the rural areas. I mean, what a diverse country. And somehow we're supposed to take all of these people in all of these states and fit them into two nice, neat little categories. And you're supposed to directly align. That's not a realistic representation of a diverse country like the United States. So I think the more voices that are heard, the better. And to me alone, that's enough of a reason to vote for a third party. So, yeah.
So you said you had a background in history.
I do. Yeah. So I actually minored in history in
What made you-
college.
what-
And then after I left the education system, before we moved to North Carolina, thought it would be really fun to work at a museum. So I actually worked at Carolina Historic Park in Dayton for about a year, and it was very fun. Very cool job. And I learned so much there. So after we moved to North Carolina, my intention was to get another education job. And while I was on the way, I happened to pass a beautiful house and thought, that almost looks like it could be a museum. So I did a U-turn on the road. You're allowed to do that in North Carolina.
Yeah, that's
And I went back and knocked on the door and said, hey, are you looking for volunteers? So about 2 days later, I was hired. And so I stayed in the museum. I worked there. It was an old plantation, a peanut plantation, historically. And so I've been there for 5 years now.
Wow.
It's beautiful.
What got you interested
cool.
in history?
I've always been interested in history and politics. I mean,
They go hand in hand almost.
people.
Yeah,
I
they
love
do.
people.
Yeah.
So if you love people, this makes
Yeah.
sense. So yeah, I've just always have since I was little. Loved history. So
I always kind of not really cringe, but it was probably my favorite subject in school was history. And people are like, oh, it's so boring. I don't want to go to history class. I'm like, no, you learn so much. It's fascinating. Old people doing these crazy sweet things. Why isn't this not fascinating?
Yeah.
It's strange to me.
well, I think it's important to know where we came from. People are pretty detached from that now, but when you start to study history, you start to see how we got to where we are right now.
We're
think
standing
I
on the
never
shoulders
saw
of
something
giants.
interesting. Wow. I mean, they really did some incredible things. So, we could sit here on a
And
table
terrible
with
things.
lights and technology and all these things. People worked really hard before us to get to where we are now. And I think that's fascinating to study, but particularly like Revolutionary War history and founding fathers.
Those guys are
This
awesome.
is a
Constitution.
very interesting time in world history, really. So I definitely like that.
I haven't read
Yeah.
too much about world history at that time. Was there like other events happening during the Revolutionary War? Like, well, I mean,
Well,
the French Revolution happened shortly
Sure,
after,
always,
but
largely spurred by our
us,
freedom.
yeah, exactly.
So and again, to the point of history and politics together, freedom. This is relatively new, right? It's a relatively new concept. It used to just be that the king made the decisions, and this is what we do, or the queen, and we all follow the orders, and this is the religion we have to practice, or we might die.
Yeah.
And so freedom is a pretty new idea, and I think it's really cool that we've been able to spread that message around the world. I do worry now, of course, that we're headed in another direction,
Yeah.
but there's always all kind of things going on all over the world, but consistently, those areas with the most freedom are the wealthiest and very
Yeah.
successful. So there are patterns, although it is a new concept, and it already says, how do you know it works? We've never had this, but yet we have examples all over the world of freedom working and oppressive governments not working in the benefit of the people. So
Especially when it comes to like
pretty good
innovation.
evidence. Yes, absolutely.
Innovation comes
Stifles
from-
all
yeah,
innovation.
yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like Japan was so innovative in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And now like because of they have so many zombie corporations and corporations are not letting die. They have no innovation. They're just
Yeah.
holding up money in these companies that are pointless. So in the U.S. is happening. Like,
Yeah.
fortunately, the U.S. is doing the same thing.
I mean, human potential is
It's huge.
outstanding,
It's like-
and you don't want to see anything stifle that. Right now, we have a lot of a lot of things stifling our ability to create a business, to create a product. Government doesn't create these things, they just make it more difficult
There's
for
been
us to
examples
do
in the
so.
past, like you can say like going to the moon would be like a good example, where the government funded that, and it'd be hard to say we would have made it to the moon without that kind of government involvement.
We would have.
It would have taken longer though, right?
And it would have probably been much cheaper.
Yeah.
Well, it would have been cheaper,
other
but
way around,
but,
you know.
A lot
some,
cheaper.
for sure.
More
but
expensive, and it
probably would have
takes
taken longer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
Who knows how much, or I bet people do know how much technological innovation has come from NASA, and especially during its heyday when they're going to the moon and all of the, like,
I think it's
technology was just.
Yeah, I think it's like shackles though. It's because it's a limiting factor, thinking that the government has to be there to
It doesn't
organize.
have to be, but
That's
it
what I'm
worked on that
saying.
occasion.
It worked,
seems.
but it doesn't work at all anywhere else.
That's not to say that government always fails.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly sometimes it is helpful or productive or useful, but those things can happen without it, usually cheaper and faster and easier. I often think about like the Wright brothers, and imagine today if there was no flight, and would that have happened if they had tried to invent that today? Imagine trying to take some machine that may or may not work, fly it around the neighborhood. Your neighbor probably calls the police.
Yeah.
Get these crazy people out of here. And then somebody comes in. They shut down so much now that could be being invented and could be
It's like
progressing humanity instead of.
I hear people talk about like how the founding fathers were during at their time, and they were like completely rebellious. They like
Very.
They would be like the people. They would have tanks right now driving them around and like just having a good time. They were just good old boys. And now it's the opposite. Now it's like all of the leaders are just like, oh, we need to be all safe, and everyone needs to stay inside and. Don't
Safety first.
live in a bubble. Yeah, exactly.
And they're not really doing a great job of keeping us safe, despite all of their intentions to do so once again.
Jacob, what's the first rule of gun safety?
It's the first rule of gun safety?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, there's like, don't put your finger on
No. It's have fun.
Have fun.
It's gotta be, right? First rule of gun safety class.
Have
fun. No, rule number 2 is don't point the gun at anyone.
Don't point it at anybody. Don't put your finger on the trigger. Make sure it's unloaded before you.
Rule number 1
You're
is
explaining. Yeah, there's a few.
Have fun.
But have fun.
it's got to be on the list, right? Exactly. If that's not number 1, you're taking yourself too seriously.
I mean, it's crazy to me how you're not allowed doing this like thing.
Why can't we have these sweet things like that? Like these
I have nothing against.
Because you don't have enough money, Jacob.
Civilian. You could buy you could buy like a cheap Soviet tank.
Oh, sweet.
They're not like. I don't know exact prices.
What do you
but
mean by can?
Yeah.
Like a few.
Like-
you know somebody, or what's
like
the
you
deal?
could buy some off of the deep web in Russia, get someone to ship it, import it into here.
Yeah, have fun with that.
But they would have to be like de-armed and everything to have it.
And
in
you
the
get
US.
your name put on the list for that as well.
Yeah.
A fun list.
Well,
Fun list, yeah.
you know
And
what,
all your friends get put on that list as well.
I could blow up that list though.
And we just got put on it for talking about it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, right.
But I could blow. If I
Sorry,
see that list, I could blow it up.
Well, I mean, it's
You're
like
all being tracked.
the government
now.
has tanks. Why can't I have a tank?
Yeah.
It's just people. Like the government's not some like imaginary formless body like that's this omnipresent.
That knows everything.
Yeah, it's not this present being. It's like it's just a group of collective of people. Like
People.
if those people
It
can
is
have
people.
a tank, I should be able to have a tank. I know as childish that
Especially
sounds.
if the intention is to protect yourself
from those
them.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like goes back to the whole war on drugs. Like that just created a police state. It did like the road to hell was paved with good intentions. Like, they wanted to stop drug use, but they ended up just arming every cop to the teeth.
Yeah. Yeah. And funding gangs and funding illegal activity. And I mean, all the money that it takes to try to stop that could potentially be used for other things.
The CIA did
And
it so they could sell drugs to us directly. That's real.
I always think of
Look it up.
whenever I think of like the war on drugs, I always think of this meme where there's like this group of DEA agents, like, in all their body armor and everything, and they're standing around this circle table, and just right in the center of the table is just a single weed pipe.
Yeah.
And they're all just...
Those pictures after a gun bust,
they're like
an eighth of them.
yeah, and on this one, they're like sitting there all proud, like, oh, we got them. We got them, boys.
We did it.
It's just one single weed pipe.
Yeah.
I feel like that's episode we're at.
I remember seeing
a lot of resources
I think
put into
buyback
that.
programs in like Australia where they're buying guns back, and then in the corner of the table there'll be like guns with obvious orange tips that are like not real firearms that they bought back.
They've bought back.
Yeah.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, so we might need to use that once
We should.
Biden and Kamala come and start buying back the guns.
Yeah, we definitely could. Just get some Nerf guns, spray paint them black.
Find a way. Yeah.
Dude, people don't even know the difference between, like, some people don't even know what a gun looks like
Yeah.
a real gun.
Yeah. I don't know.
Dude,
Hopefully not.
I went to a CCW class. I've helped teach them, and people were literally like shaking when they put the gun in front of them.
There's
I'm
a lot
like,
of fear.
holy
Yeah.
cow!
It's bred. I think
it's,
so.
it's a lot of media is like
It's bombardment.
I noticed that when I go
Yeah.
to like the city and hang out with gun owners there, like there were Republicans in the city. I met a family in Chicago, and they were like showing me the guns that they had in their safe, and like, which is like proper gun safety. Like I get it, but the way they were looking at them and holding them and talking about them, it's like, it's just
Oh,
a
yeah.
gun, man. It's not loaded. Look, you can just look in the. It's not loaded. Like you can just do whatever you want with it. Like it's
That's one of those rules
harmless.
about
Yeah,
showing
yeah.
it. Or, yeah.
sure, but it's just like they were like
loaded.
the way they were
Dude,
treating
like,
it, and
that's
they were
that's
pro gun.
completely different than I am. It's like I keep a gun loaded. Like it doesn't serve much purpose if it's not loaded. Like the reason I have a gun is to defend myself.
I have a
like,
gun
You're going to
loaded.
defend yourself.
Or I
have a
live
gun loaded and one in the
alone
chamber
too. It's not
all
like
the
I
time.
You have a Glock
Yeah.
too, don't you?
I have two guns loaded with one in the chamber.
So
in my
Glocks don't
house.
even have safety. So like you just pull the trigger.
No, most handguns do not have safety.
the hammer's the safety,
Yeah.
except if it's double
No,
action.
not putting your finger in the
Yeah.
trigger is the safety.
No, but like if I had kids or something,
I got a story. I got a story about
Right.
this. So I went to buy this Glock, and I'm standing there, and this young African American walks up, and he's like, "I want to look at this gun." He picks up the gun and puts his finger right in the trigger, and he's like, "So where's the safety?" And the dude just looks at him, and is like, "Don't put your finger in the trigger. That's the safety." And the dude just like puts it down. I was like, dang, dude.
Oh.
Don't know. I don't know. You got to teach that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you do.
Yeah.
You
That's
do.
like I was just
You can
completely
take it for
different.
granted
Rule number
if you've
one,
grown
have
up.
fun.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Around
It's
guns.
completely different for me because it was just like guns were tools to like how I grew up. It was like use a gun to kill this nuisance that's eating your chickens or whatever. Like that was the they could never. I wasn't taught that like the gun is made to kill. Like
Yeah.
I was taught like it's a tool. And it's how you use the tool. It's not the
is
not
the
the tool
tool.
itself. It's you, the user. Like if you don't shoot anybody, the gun's not going to shoot anybody. Like,
It's
That's not true.
It's strange to me that we
Guns kill
have
people.
moved to this narrative of the object is
Exactly.
Yeah.
the guilty one when it's the person who's
No,
committing
it's just
a crime. If that's the case,
it's
that's
clear
the guilty
propaganda.
one.
It is clear
Yeah.
propaganda. They don't want us to have guns.
yeah.
That's it. It's so obvious.
It's like why the Japanese said we've awakened the sleeping giant is because they know that behind every American bush
blade of-
is
I've heard
every
blade of
American,
grass, tree,
whatever.
bush.
Behind every one, there's a American waiting with a gun.
Revolutionary War.
Exactly.
You know, they don't know where the guns
Yeah.
were. They didn't live here. They did, so they're sending in, troops to fight a war. They don't know who's armed. It could
Exactly.
be anybody. That's
Yeah,
a
those guerrilla warfares
powerful.
Well, that was what is it called? Like fourth generation warfare is like that's where warfare's at now, where it's like you have all of the actual warfare is done in like a civilian setting, where it's like you can't just fire on people because they're all fourth generation warfare is like you blend in with all your civilians and you hide among the civilians,
Yeah, that's what the
and that's like all warfare is like that now.
Have you seen the? I think it's a meme. No, it's TikTok. Some stupid thing where Japan goes and attacks like. They say, "Oh, we did it! We destroyed America. It's just an island. What are you guys talking about in Germany?" And they had like a person stand like sitting back like they're German, and they're like, that's just Hawaii. And then it's the. Have you seen that TikTok video? God, dude, it's hilarious.
That sounds like a video that would
Wow.
show up on your feed there, Jacob Stahl.
I don't have TikTok.
Okay, well, we saw it from somewhere.
I did see it.
They repost that stuff everywhere now.
What?
I see reposts of TikToks everywhere now, like on Instagram.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to
popular,
download it.
We should get on
Commies.
TikTok.
Commies.
Podcast on TikTok. Frank,
Commies.
come on, man. The outreach.
No.
It's a China.
Don't look at me.
I'm staying away from TikTok. I made an account once and I was just like reading through it and it was like some of the terms of use, like you
Yeah.
give away a lot of data. Like
You give away a lot of
If you
data to
read,
Google,
I was
too.
gonna say.
We're already screwed.
I get
Every
the-
time I
yeah.
read terms of service, I'm like, what are we
No,
doing?
but the thing about it to me is it's the Chinese government you're giving.
I
the-
know.
Like,
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, I've got a theory on this,
I don't-
Frank. And I think it's a good one. All right. So, TikTok is a direct competitor to Facebook, right? And Facebook has obvious ties with legislation in the US. Like, it's clear as day. I think that message right there, that it's China taking your data, is propaganda from Facebook because they can't buy TikTok. What did Facebook do when Vine started getting popular? They bought it and canceled it. Instagram started getting popular. They bought it and used it.
Why would Facebook run with that narrative when they're doing it's
No, exactly. They're doing the exact same thing, right? But no one gives a shit that Facebook's doing it
People
because they're in
do.
the U.S.
I think they do give a shit
I
now.
do give a
So
shit because
too.
China's getting it, not because
No,
they're taking
I'm saying
the data.
Facebook. I'm saying people do give a
Yeah.
shit about Facebook. It's like why
Yeah, yeah.
Facebook is
People
suing.
do.
Facebook
But,
is.
people are
but
waking
that's
up to
not
that.
what the news is telling you.
No, well, I mean, Facebook, I think, is suing. I think they're suing Apple because Apple is like you're now asking if you would like if they are allowing you to specify if an app can track anything outside
Good.
of when you open it.
That's great.
And Facebook's like,
Yeah.
you can't do this. This is how we make all of our revenue. Like
Right.
now they're not gonna. And it's just dumb. And that's what I mean. That's the company we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna.
That's what I'm saying.
But the-
Facebook, they're doing the exact same thing, but they're not getting flagged. TikTok is. You think that TikTok's bad because they're collecting your data, but you still use Facebook. You still use Google.
I
who are
don't.
doing
I
the
don't.
same
I have
thing.
a Facebook, but I don't use it.
Sure, but if you have TikTok and you don't use it,
But
what
China's
I mean?
also a communist country.
sure.
So
there's,
I do have
I think there's a slither.
major concern.
That's if you're,
slither
it's
of
like
truth.
it's like when we were talking.
What can China do
Well,
with our data that Facebook can't?
Here's
do?
the other thing. It's like
Study
when
it.
It's
They're studying it
Use
too.
it
Yeah.
to.
What?
Well, we're earlier talking about the Uyghur population and the oppression of the
You're talking
Muslim
about
community.
doing a cause
they
for Hong
test
Kong.
that technology
Yeah.
on those communities.
Sure.
So I do not want to help them test that technology.
And you talked about like helping Hong Kong and everything, and like this is a way that we can help Hong Kong is not support the regime trying to overthrow them,
Sure.
and that's why I'm
Take-
completely against all like. But it's you can't.
Do you ever buy stuff from China?
That's what I'm saying. You can't escape it anymore. I'm not
tried
saying
hard
yeah.
not to this year. Family exchange, buy local. So we all went to our local stores, and Christmas this year was literally reading where it was made. We were hit about still 50% made in China
Yeah,
at
that's
stores
tough.
that
And
we were pretty convinced were very local and.
Well, they are local, but they're still getting their shit from China.
Yeah, you can't
yeah,
escape it.
I mean, we are trying hard,
They-
but we've also decided that we value cheap goods more than the integrity.
Well, I
Yeah.
think that was
That's
forced
Amazon,
upon
right?
us. I think that was forced upon us because they
No, it's just- it's
exported.
convenient.
Well,
It's
no,
convenient, but it's also helped, a lot of low-income people be able to afford things that they wouldn't have ever been able to afford. As
But is
much as
that-
I despise, going to certain stores that everything there is made in China, and I would try to avoid that. I happen right now to be able to have the luxury to say, okay, I'm willing to pay an extra $1 for that to get it somewhere else. But not everyone has that luxury. So, the free trade aspect of it, if we're going to say, hey, if we can trade with this company and they can do it cheaper,
But I think-
someone's going to win and someone's going to lose in all of these
I think
situations.
they utilized a communist regime to stop the effects of inflation because you export the job market to a cheaper job market, and then you have cheaper
right.
goods.
Well,
and
right.
The free market, the free market would have done it anyways.
No, not necessarily.
Probably the incentives are there.
Depending
Cheaper
on
goods,
depending
more
on our
competitive goods.
depending on our
Yeah.
our policy, our foreign policy on
Sure.
it.
Do you want America to say that you can't buy goods from China if they're cheaper?
Well, I'm saying you shouldn't. If you don't, I think you shouldn't do business with countries that don't share your same ideals.
Sure, but should me as a U.S. company not be able to work with Chinese companies or European companies? Because that's kind of what you're getting at.
Europe is no. I'm not. I'm talking about a communist regime versus
Sure, but I just mean foreign countries in general, right? Because a free market society, I could be able to trade with whoever the fuck I want, wherever the fuck I want.
Yeah.
And if it's cheaper there and it makes me more profit if I bring it in here, it makes me more competitive, then I should be allowed to do so.
But I'm saying that's not going to happen.
I'll trade you this for your hat.
I don't
Trade
like
with
that.
anyone. Oh, damn it.
Like this was artificially caused.
Maybe.
It's like the whole it's like the antitrust policies. Like they ended up hurting the smaller businesses. It's like the oil the Rockefeller antitrust. Like why the Antitrust Act was passed it saved Rockefeller in the end, because Rockefeller's market share in the 1880s was at like 80%, and when the Sherman Antitrust Act took place, it was at like 20 or 30%, and it was lobbied by the like Rockefellers. And that's what I'm saying is like a lot of this stuff the push to push our workforce out of the country was caused by the government.
Maybe.
I mean, what even in a free market?
We have to take responsibility as people to make those decisions too.
I'd agree.
I still think some people say, "Oh, it's too late. We're lost. It's all being made for us." I still think we have the ability to decide. I
As
think
a
awareness
consumer,
is a
you
big
do.
deal.
Yeah, 100%
Education is a big
ability to-
deal.
It's like people who complain about Amazon and then buy a bunch of shit on Amazon. It's
Exactly.
like, if you think they're making too much money, don't use them.
it.
I think he made a sweet business.
No, it's the best. It's the best.
Like, good for that guy.
Yeah,
good
it's
for
so convenient.
Bezos.
It's
I
the
hate when people are like,
best.
Bezos should give all of his money away. Like, no, dude, that guy did some cool stuff.
It's the
man.
anti-competition practices, like things that shouldn't even be taking place. It's them stealing ideas and making it their own. Like that's what I don't like about Amazon.
And that's the same
Agreed.
things like Walmart would do that, and like some of these big guys.
Agreed.
And the only reason why they could do that is because they're so big. And the
They can
majority of the
pull it
reason
all
why
together.
they're
Why are they so big?
the government.
Because of government.
Exactly.
Yes. When they get to pick
it's
the
a
winners and
combination.
That's
losers.
what I'm saying. In a free market, you don't have the ability
I don't know.
to
It's hard to
export your
hard to
market.
say, right? Because we don't have that. So it's like you don't really know what would happen in a completely free market, because it really, like Rockefeller would be a good example, I guess. He was bigger than big. He was the biggest company ever, maybe the richest man.
He had about 90% market share.
Yeah, I mean,
That's not a. That's
and
not
that wasn't because of the government.
No, that was because he innovated. He horizontally and vertically monopolized.
But that still might be dangerous for the market as a whole.
No, but I'm saying he failed, or he was already failing, and then they passed the Antitrust Act to break him apart.
Maybe so. Well, speaking of buying local, Jacob Sully's got a Christmas present for me from Brennan Bader.
Dude. Not Brennan.
Braylon.
Brennan, you said Brennan.
No, I didn't. Braylon Bader. And
Better. Night Owl, dude. Look at this cup, man. It's
check it out.
swirly, dude.
Insulina.
It's what's geometrical, very geometrical. You can drink out of it. I don't know if it means that. I just said it because it sounded cool.
well, I like him, and you should too.
I do too.
Check him out. If you
I
get
like
the
it.
chance.
It's cool.
Night Owl even has like on the bottom Night Owl.
stamp.
I know you can't see this. I'm just acting like I'm showing it to you guys.
But it's good stuff. I'm really happy with the stuff. I gave a lot of them away as Christmas presents, but I made sure to keep a couple for myself because I like them. So
Should be the main takeaway from our podcast.
yeah,
Is buy
if you
local.
take away anything from any of this
buy
garbage,
local.
Braylon Bader was
Buy
on our
local. Yeah,
podcast
there you
too.
go.
Yeah, he
He was
was.
on our podcast.
He makes those.
And
He's a cool
definitely
guy.
listen to
That's
that
beautiful.
podcast and go do his stuff because that's pretty cool stuff.
Kim, do you want to sell anything while we're doing it?
How about libertarianism?
Good.
Freedom.
I would love to
Free
sell
at
freedom
night.
today.
Free at
Anyone
night.
interested?
Freedom isn't free. Good. I'm buying.
Yeah, great.
You want a good stopping point?
I don't know. Is there anything else you want to talk about, Kim?
Not particularly. Do you have
Jacob?
any other questions for me while I'm here?
So many. But
So many.
I'll probably ask them. I don't know. We're next door neighbors, so
Yeah.
I'll
You
get
can
to
ask
ask.
them anytime when you think of it.
Next time you're in town, too.
Yes.
Yeah, we got to get her husband Bryce on as well.
Oh, yeah, we got to get Bryce
Yes.
on. Bryce would be great.
Absolutely. Yes.
You got to talk him into it.
That should be pretty easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long are you guys in town for?
We don't know. Depends on the weather. Maybe.
Pray for shitty weather.
Yeah, if it snows this weekend, you can call us. Yeah.
Sweet.
I
You
like
can
snow.
dive deep into gold and financial markets
Oh,
with
yeah.
Bryce. Indeed.
We kind of got into it a little bit in Carolina.
In North Carolina.
Yeah. That was a good. That was a very
Mm-hmm.
interesting conversation. He would definitely be a perfect one. You would really like him, Jacob.
But
Mm-hmm.
sweet.
But he'd
All right.
disagree with you on war.
That's all right. No, that's what makes the world go around.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Don't get mad at people just because they're
Yeah.
No.
Get
If
mad
you-
at them.
Yeah, if you
Yes.
disagree with me.
I hate you, Hank.
The conversation.
I'll go to war with you.
All right, we should probably end here. It's falling apart. If you made it this far, really, thanks for listening. Kim, thank you so much for spending the
Absolutely.
time coming
Thank
on
you guys
with
for
us.
having me.
Go to Night Owl.
Go to Night Owl.
Be a libertarian. I just
There you go. Jacob's got it. Jacob's got the messaging down. Seriously, thanks for listening.
Peace.
See ya.
Slight.